Hello and welcome to Will Cuts Custom. My name is Dustin Honeycutt, and today I'll be doing my very first Wargame review. So first off, I'd like to explain what we're doing here. This is a 10v10 conquest game in a map Asgard. So as you see, let's get this started. I actually go to Delta. You'll see me post, that's me. And then you'll see Dan post his flare over here saying that he's going to Bravo. This is where me and Dan usually like to go. Sometimes we'll switch it up a little bit, but you know, that's where we're comfortable with. And usually most people don't like to go over here because, you know, Romeo is a call-in point, so they know that usually you can't really push up that hard through this because of Romeo. Very hard to push through here because they can just simply call in as much stuff as they want. Right now I'm setting up a defense for Delta. I have all chopper infantry ready to move up once the game starts. This will allow me to get there as fast as I can, and if they do send choppers and I was to accidentally, or not accidentally, but if I was to send nothing but slow moving infantry, they would probably get there before me if they tried and could do some damage. Which is why I always try to pick chopper infantry for the beginning of the game. Let's see if I can speed this up till we actually get started. There it goes. And as you see, someone already left the game. Kind of common in 10v10, which is kind of depressing, but you know, it happens. It's a big problem when you're dealing with pickup groups. Me and Dan are actually the only two here on our team that we actually know. Everyone else is one big pickup group. So we're kind of at the mercy of our team to see if, you know, they know what they're doing. And at this point, I kind of realized I left my FOB in Foxtrot as well as my command guy. So he had to fly all the way from Foxtrot to Delta to actually unload. Which is my fault completely. I should have moved him over to where I was, but it happens. Now, as you see, these are 4 Mi-24Ds. These are attack choppers, but they also have infantry in them. They have Spetsnaz in them. Spetsnaz are some pretty nasty infantry. They're very effective against other infantry. As you see, they were able to drop some off. Luckily, I had SAS, which are multi-roll. The SAS was able to kill most of the Mi-24s, all the Mi-24s, and then my Fox was able to take out what was dropped off. So over here, Dan's dealing with the same thing. But luckily, he was able to do the same thing. He had some good radar marksman. Was able to take care of it. So I have some infantry and warriors, and basically this is all just setting up a defense in Delta. So Dan's trying to take care of this. They do gain pop-up pretty quickly. That's mainly because they want that call-in point. And let's see, in the middle is through the whole game, the middle is a very big battlefield. Apparently, both our side and their side sent very large force to it. And it's at this time that me and Dan realized that we are completely by ourselves. We're on the right side by ourselves. There's no one going to Charlie, so we're 2 people in a place that should have probably 3 to 4 people. And over here, I'm sending in my choppers that had my infantry in them just to see how far they get into Romeo, see what kind of defense they have in Romeo. And by this time I realized they do have a very decent defense there, so there's really no point in me attacking. That would just simply be pushing into nothing at all. So I basically just sent some Chinooks in to resupply my SAS and basically keep my defense ready. So back over here to Charlie. Once me and Dan realized that Charlie is completely ours, we got really lucky because if they would have sent those Mi-24s this way through Charlie instead of through Bravo, they would have probably actually wiped out all of Alpha. We didn't really have much of a defense. We may have got lucky and saw it and called in some stuff before it happened, but that's never a guarantee. Really hate that we were the only two on this side. But luckily, good thing about having infantry and choppers, I was able to send out 2 Milan infantry, which are long-range ATGM infantry. I'll end up dropping them off here and moving them up here. They will be able to cover the road just in case something attacks. And these are SAS infantry, which I will eventually be putting right here to stop any attack from the trees or an air attack, because SAS are both they have short-range ATGMs and they have Stinger missiles with them as well. As you see, this guy over here is putting out a lot of flares. He was kind of the exact same way we were. He was by himself, handling the whole left side. We were wanting to help him. All of our team was going through the middle. We couldn't do anything to help him. We wanted to, but at the point in time, we were just hoping he could at least defend it until someone helped him. As you see, I'm pushing up my links again. I do this with usually all of my transports in Conquest. This simply just gives me a kind of reading on where, what they have, what kind of defense they have, and how fast, how much anti-air, because, air superiority is a major thing in this game. Jets can either win the game for you or lose the game for you. Now, this is kind of funny right here. These Pumas, I was actually not watching them. And that is a command chopper, which, again, I was not watching. We could have taken out Papa in the first 10 minutes of the game. Never even noticed it. You see the Pumas firing. Not doing anything because those BRDMs are there. And they call in 4 very effective vehicles that are anti-air capable. And all this time, I just assumed it was anti-air that killed them, and didn't really notice that they saw anything as far as a command vehicle. We see that Mi-8 getting pretty close. Not a big fan of that. We know that that's more than likely, not more than likely, that is an infantry transport. But we're not sure if it has infantry in it. It could have easily dropped off infantry back in Papa and then pushed up. But you always have to be better safe than sorry. Here's Dan pushing up a recon ferret up into the trees and some infantry. Not really sure what kind of infantry it is, but he is pushing that up. We have some Stormer. I send in 2 Stormers. I really like the Stormers because they are both... The one missile they have can fire both... Or it's effective at both tanks and anything airborne. It can fire on both rolling and airborne units. Very nice when you don't have much of a defense and you want to put something out that can do damage to whatever they send. And that's why I love the Stormers. Not really that powerful though. They're effective, but it takes a couple of shots to actually kill any type of armor. They're mostly effective against lightweight stuff, airborne, as well as light type of vehicles moving up. Right here you see me sending up 6 Rardens. These are simply for me to see how far they get. They are very effective 30mm autocannons. And with 6 of them, I was kind of hoping they'd get a little bit, pretty far. Here is simply what I do. I think I have 7 or 8 of these right off the bat. They are, and as you see, that's the anti-air, but I use those gazelles a lot just to simply poke and prod at people to see what's there, if anything's dead, if anything's dying. Dan finally ends up killing those Rardens with that falcon. This is just a huge stalemate. And at that time I called in that MLRS because I knew there was a lot of AA there that I could not attack with any type of chopper. So I wanted something. I was hoping my my Rardens would get there and take them out, but once I saw these Mi-24s, I knew that was more than likely not a chance. So here's my MLRS firing. I have noticed that I'm not a big fan of the MLRS since the update. They don't fire in that tight of a group anymore. It's pretty spread out now compared to what it used to be. Not really that effective anymore unless they get lucky and hit something. Those Mi-24s are firing on my Rardens. At this point I'm trying to simply get them into the trees, hoping and praying that they get there before anything takes them out. The first 2 gets hidden pretty easily. So far they've taken out 2 of them. The second 2 actually do get hidden, and this is when they actually attack me. If all 4 of these guys were calm and collected, they would have probably taken out these 3 choppers and have been able to keep moving. But as you see, these guys were panicked and these guys were calm, but when you have 3 choppers attacking you, you can't really do much. So they did end up killing him, and these guys have to get pretty close. But by this time, he's already panicked, or these 2, well, one of these 2 are panicked, and that just destroys their accuracy. Can't really do anything. So I knew at that point that was pretty much a lost cause. It was a good try. Over here, we see that they pretty much annihilated November, which we expected, unfortunately. This is kind of what you have to deal with when you're on a 10v10 and you're only 2 people. Where we see ourselves a lot having to help a lot of people that just are by themselves and can't defend what's attacking them. Unfortunately, at this point, we don't have the points to send anything, so it takes a minute before we actually do send anything. Most of the forces in Kilo are actually taken out by the time we start helping, unfortunately. Here I am sending out another Gazelle to see what he could do. I know that Mi-24, he has a 12mm that could take it out pretty easily, but I just wanted to see what was there. I want to see if my MLRSs did anything, which I can tell you now they didn't. As you see, everything's still there. All the anti-air is still there. Sea Harrier comes in. That is an anti-radar Sea Harrier. I was hoping that some of these were radar, but the guy was smart. He didn't put any radar out, so my Sea Harrier was pretty much useless. I just ended up evacing him. Oh, I've already called in a second MLRS. I think, I'm not sure if it has fired already. Yes, that's already fired. I fired that up here, hoping to get just a lucky shot on a command unit, but was unlucky. And here I send in some infantry. I think I have 4 SAS and 2 recon infantry. I want to put them down behind here and do a on-foot attack behind the mountain. Now over here, if I'm not wrong, this is where this gets very interesting. Not really that interesting, basically what we were waiting for. And we knew that Mike didn't have a defense yet. The guy in Mike was simply trying to push through Oscar, which wasn't really doing at all, but he was definitely trying. But since he was trying to push up, didn't have much of a defense in the back. So this is where I do send in jets. He sends in a Thunderbolt, which takes care of most of it. A Thunderbolt probably saved him at that point. What do I send? I send in that Harrier with paveways. This is actually one of my favorite jets in the game. Has 4 paveways, which are extremely effective against armored because they fire top down now since the update. And they're also mainly effective against soft targets, infantry, and soft vehicles. But you see, luckily they didn't have any anti-air, and we were able to bomb that. He sends in another Thunderbolt, or yeah, that's another Thunderbolt. And he got really lucky because there were no anti-air. Thunderbolts are extremely effective against anything. They can wipe out an army by themselves as long as there's no anti-air. Any anti-air whatsoever can usually take out a Thunderbolt. You got Danson and a Harrier trying to help out. But at this point, there it is. That Baruza was very effective against all of our air. I think it actually ends up killing my Harrier as well. It does. So there went that. We could no longer help because of that anti-air. So we moved back here. And at this point, I'm sending in my choppers. Doing the same thing I did before. They're just simply transports. They're not effective against anything really. Unlike Russia's transports come with rocket launchers usually. But as far as NATO's, or excuse me, PACT in general, their air transports are usually some type of attack chopper. Which is when you see the MI8s, they have rockets on them that can be fairly effective. So, and then now I finally see this and I realize what it is. So I have one set of Pumas branch off, I think. Maybe. Okay, I do not have that set of Pumas branch off. I tried to, but they never got anywhere apparently. Was easily taken out by all the anti-air he has. But I was able to mark the area and tell Dan where it was. And when you look down here, you see, here it is. Dan has 4 M109s that's able to fire on that position. Has plenty of range for that. Those are actually 155 millimeter. And there you see, pretty sure that very first shell is actually what takes it out. And there it went. There you see that very first shell is all it took. So that pretty much set us up to push into Papa. And that's when we're ready to attack. Correction, we're about to... I'm sending in my infantry here. And at this point is when we go from, okay, we need to attack, to we need a lot more defense than what we have. You see Mi-24s here, Mi-24, Mi-24, Mi-28. These are all attack choppers that are very effective against, well, pretty much anything. We knew we didn't have enough anti-air to stop all that. I knew I had a good bit here, so I knew Delta would be okay. Charlie didn't have anything, so I called in enough anti-air for Charlie. Me and Dan both called in anti-air. And up here you see my SAS they run into a T-72, which took them out fairly easily. So here these guys come. We're expecting all these choppers to rush through Charlie because it's a call-in point. But unfortunately, we were wrong. They only sent a few into Charlie, but we take that out fairly easily. They send most of the attack into Bravo. And as you see in Bravo, we did not have hardly any anti-air in Bravo. Dan sends out some chopper killer Harriers that have 4 AIM-9Ls on them. Still yet, that's not going to do much against all that. One tracked Rapier's alive, and he has some, well, actually just the Javelins ready to attack. I send in my Harriers. These are my Pavoy Harriers I send in. They only have 2 9Ls apiece, but since that's not their primary or anything, they're able to resupply fairly quickly and get back out. Here's Dan sending in his Bomber Harrier, which is doing the same thing. He's just simply trying to send in everything he can to take out jets. This, as you see, they took out the last bit of anti-air. These Javelins are doing everything they can to take out what they can. And I think right here, my Harriers are already resupplied, so I'm sending them out against these Mi-24s. And we see Strelas. Strelas are panicked, so we don't really have to worry about them hitting us. My Harriers, I send them out to kill those Mi-24s. He's evac'd. Send this Harrier in. Luckily, he actually didn't have to kill anything. So I just went ahead and evac'd him. This one, if I'm not wrong, I actually ended up trying to get him to drop his bombs on these Conquers, if I'm not wrong. So, nope, send in a tornado to do that. Excuse me. That's a tornado with clusters. So there went that. Harrier I did try to attack with, but the clusters kind of already took care of it. And then his infantry was able to finish it. So we got really lucky. We were able to use the points that we have stored up to take that out. Still has some Spetsnaz there, but nothing to actually do anything with. And one of our teammates are trying to attack over here. Trying to attack Romeo. The only problem with this is, as you see, he doesn't have that big of an attack. And Romeo is actually a call-in point. So if people realize you're trying to attack them, they can simply send out as much stuff as they need to defend the area. And it's instantaneous defense. So that pretty much got stopped fairly quickly. Right here in the middle is a stalemate. Uniform, they're calling in stuff from uniform. Our teammates are calling in stuff from golf. And you see it's just a huge battlefield that's doing nothing but staying right there. Back over here, they did actually end up taking or destroying Kilo. And they took November. So that's we were simply trying to build our defensive back up right now. So we couldn't really help out anything with this. We were kind of just crossing our fingers, hoping that these guys would have it under control. The Semi-24 is coming around, and there's nothing here to defend it either. The guy did get lucky, very lucky, because he was able to send out an anti-air unit before the Mi-24 killed his command unit. And at this point, you see DN left. DN's actually the guy that me and Dan were defending against. So he kind of saw that we stopped his attack and he gave up basically. So if only he knew that he could just push right through us after that. Or at least through Bravo. At this point, you see us calling in a lot of stuff for this force right here. We're actually planning an attack on Papa. Because of, if we get Papa, Papa is also a call-in point, as you see. So if we get that, we can usually push through Quebec fairly easily. Because of that reason. This guy's simply trying to get people to put a defense up. The middle's doing the same thing the middle's been doing the whole match. Just staying in one spot. I sent in another Gazelle. I try to keep the Gazelle where it can see these because Dan's actually sending in an airstrike for him. I stun him. If I'm not wrong, yeah, he actually ends up losing sight because he lowers himself behind the trees. Just simply, it's an automatic thing that choppers do. So I tried moving him to get visual again, and he ends up dying before Dan's airstrike gets there. Luckily, we sent in enough air to pretty much wipe out everything there. I sent in 3 sets of paveways. Which, if paveways don't have a lock on anything on an armored vehicle, they're not effective. Firing on position when you know it's armor, it's kind of pointless. Simply for the fact of they top-down fire if it's armor. So if it has nothing to top-down fire on, it's just going to do an area of effect, which isn't anywhere near effective against armor. Dan sent in a Harrier to take out that Mi-24. And at this point, I'm sending in another Gazelle because I know that most of the anti-air there should be dead. But just in case, I send in a Tornado and Dan sends in a Harrier that have 4 500-kilogram bombs. And you see everything there is pretty much dead. If I'm not wrong, I think 1 T-72 and 1 anti-air survived that attack. Oh, no, we have one T-72 and one of those. At this point, you see we're pretty close to our winning score. And we actually see this guy having a command unit there. He was trying to regain Papa. If he would have regained Papa, we would have probably had a fight again on our hands. But luckily, I was able to stop him before he did. Now these MI4s, these are infantry transports. That's part of the ones I was talking about. They have the rockets as well as the machine gun on them. Dan sends out a Sea Harrier to take care of him, though, or those. And I send out a Paveway Harrier to take care of the T-72. And my Gazelle sees him. That ends up taking out my Gazelle, I'm pretty sure. Almost took out my Harrier. So you see Dan attacking in the Papa. Me, on the other hand, I didn't really feel the need to send a 170-point tank with all these warrior infantries. So I end up moving them in to this forest right here so I could wait and attack Quebec with them. These are actually really effective. That Challenger can push through just about anything. And then these warriors, these are 30mm. These have 30mm autocannons on them, as well as being infantry transports, which just means that I have an all-around attack. Not the best infantry in the world, but they're good line infantry, and they can usually hold their ground. So I see Dan with his infantry moving up. So that's when I actually do tell my warrior and my Challenger to move up. I have a Gazelle coming in, but we actually end up attacking before this. We do see some choppers over here. We're not sure what they are. We knew they were probably infantry transports. And right here, that's very interesting. I thought that Dan's FV-107 actually killed that, but it didn't. And that comes to bite me later. And as you see, they have a T-80 and a T-72, or 4 T-72s. That T-80 is equivalent to my Challenger as far as price and availability, or price and attack ability. So we try to take those out pretty quickly. I send in 2 tornadoes as well as Harriers. So we were able to take out the T-80. Right here I send in Paveways to take out their command unit. And Challenger almost died. He was very lucky. Only 3 bars of health left. But like I say, they're the true meaning of a tank. True definition of a tank. Very powerful, very expensive. As you see, there are still some T-72 T-72s here. Challenger makes quick work of one of them. The other one kind of disappears. Now, right here, you see I have 4 30mm Fox Recon. Okay, 4 30mm Fox Recon, just fast-moving recon. They're very tiny, so they're good. They're very good as far as stealth is concerned. These are basically the same thing. They're ferrets, but I have 2 of them, and they have ATGM launcher on them with 6 missiles apiece. So you have 6 very small, very agile vehicles that can usually be in a very effective attack. Uh, an effective sneak attack. If they know you're coming and they have tanks set up, they are simply lightweight vehicles. So they're not going to do much in the way of stopping. And, you know, if they have another T-80, definitely not going to stop that. Here, you see, I call in a Lynx because I think that this anti-air is dead. It wasn't. Now it is because of Dan's tank, but it was not dead before that. What do I have here? I sent in my Gazelle over to see what Romeo has. And I see this. I actually thought that was a command unit. So you'll see I mark it, and then after I mark it, I end up firing both of my MLRSs at it. So not really sure if it was a command unit or not. Like I said, the MLRSs are so spread out now when they fire that really don't know if they were even effective against anything over there. My ferrets and my fox, or my ferrets I move up because, you know, they are ATGMs and they can fire a very long range. You see right here I'm calling in Pumas. Those have SAS in them. SAS are extremely effective against pretty much anything. Like I've said before. And I start moving up these infantry to this town. That way I'll have the SAS and some other infantry, some line infantry just to help me out. Here we see 12 T-72s. There's the last 4. Those I was very worried about. These tanks are very effective in groups like that. So I sent in my tornado and my tornadoes to get them. I was wanting to hit all 12 of them with Harriers because those paveways. But like I said before, paveways are not that effective unless you have a complete lock. So I end up just hitting anti-air with those. And here, I'm trying to drop these guys in. And you see this Ka-52, that actually has anti-air missiles on it. So he was able to take out one of my Pumas. And you see my SAS lost 2. I lost 2 of my SAS there. The reason is that one of my Pumas actually fell on top of it when it died. So lost him, and they're pretty panicked, I'm sure. Luckily, I was able to get away from that artillery with my SAS. I think my Fusiliers end up getting the full blunt of the artillery. Wasn't really that worried about them. They were simply from a different attack. I was actually surprised they actually lived through that last attack. So I have my SAS moving up. And here's where they meet Spetsnaz. Spetsnaz are probably the most effective, if not close to the most effective, infantry killers. They actually have napalm rockets, which are able to take out anything as far as infantry or soft is concerned. But luckily, they don't really have time to do anything. That's where we gained the rest of the points to win the game. And that pretty much wraps it up. Luckily, we were able to hold our side and push up through our side while the middle was having their fun battle. Really wish that it would have went a little bit differently as far as people would have been spread out a little bit more. But like I say, when you have pickup groups for 10v10s, this seems to happen a lot. Simply for the fact of no one knows what other people are doing unless you call it out. That's why you see most people putting flares down saying, I'm going here, so on and so forth. But it doesn't always happen like that. And you learn to deal with it. But luckily, even with the left side being almost destroyed completely, we were able to hold the right side, and the rest of our team were able to hold the middle. So that pretty much wraps it up. Thanks for watching, and everyone have a great day.